What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin price chart. If you haven't noticed, the price today has popped up, seemingly on news of a defeat being issued to the SEC in regards to the Grayscale spot Bitcoin ETF filing that was originally rejected by the SEC for their standard rejection approach. In a statement released by Grayscale, as reported here by Eleanor Tourette, today the DC Circuit ruled in favor of Grayscale in our lawsuit challenging the SEC's decision denying GBTC's conversion to an ETF. This is a monumental step forward for American investors, the Bitcoin ecosystem, and all those who have been advocating for Bitcoin exposure through the added protections of the ETF wrapper. The Grayscale team and our legal advisors are actively reviewing the details outlined in the court's opinion and will be pursuing next steps with the SEC. We will share more information as soon as practicable. Bitcoin's price immediately popped up, rising about $1,600 off the heels of that news. Now, we actually did catch this live in Markets in the Morning, and we were talking a lot about the structure we have currently right now for Bitcoin, at least before the news even broke, talking about how similar the price behavior we have right now after that liquidation event was to after FTX's event, which then, of course, wrong-footed retail. As you know, everybody's been screaming for $12,000 Bitcoin again. That's what happened after the FTX liquidation. We'll play a little clip from this. Looking at Bitcoin's current price action right now, after enough time has elapsed in here, finally just kind of being like, what was it like when we had our last liquidation event, right? Our last major liquidation took place with FTX. And I was just like, let's go look at that, because that's a bottom where everybody thought we were going to break lower, as you have right now. You have every analyst out there saying we're going to break lower at this point. And I was just kind of looking at the price behavior of how we acted in there, right? What did you get? You got really just a capitulation down to the lows, waddling the new low. It takes all those out and then comes back in here and goes sideways once again. And well, there you go. That didn't take very long. But I didn't actually want to spend a ton of time talking about the Grayscale news or ETF news. The reality is there is not a Bitcoin spot ETF. They did not get approved for a Bitcoin spot ETF. It just means the SEC has to come up with a better excuse to deny it. So now Grayscale will go back into talks with the SEC, and either they're going to come up with another reason to deny it or they'll approve it. Which do you think is going to happen? We'll find out. But of course, today we get a lot of excitement. You see a lot of the 12K callers starting to disappear. You see euphoria returning back to the markets once again. And as we've sat down here at these lows for almost 2 weeks, you've seen, or at least I have seen, an absurd amount of calls saying we're going here. Then we start a new bull run. This all comes from the same people who claim that we're in a 4-year cycle, block reward halvings, essentially running on the playbook of what happened back in 2018 through 2020. And with everybody being so wishy-washy on, are they bearish? Are they bullish? What are they? They don't know. I feel we have to do everything we possibly can to rule this whole thing out of what happened in here, to say that is not what is going on in here. And to say, if this happens, that is destruction for Bitcoin. So you have two scenarios that are happening here for Bitcoin. One, everything is completely fine. Bitcoin is in a range just like it was in 2015, and it's just marching its way up. Or two, Bitcoin's working on a world of pain. But in no way are we doing the 2018 through 2020 playbook. And I think we have to eliminate this. And we have to eliminate the idea that 12K is in some way bullish, to provide some clarity to the price action for Bitcoin. I get asked every day in my live stream, hey, have you seen the idea of us going to 12K and then rallying back from there? Of course I have. You go to 12K, it's because you're doing that, not the hedging, calling, hopium stuff that's being sold like this. So the very first thing we're going to do really fast is we're going to at least eliminate this playbook from what's happening in here. That can easily be done. One, this is the current price action of Bitcoin right now. As we can see, the highest it is retraced here is just above the 0.236 Fibonacci retracement level. And then it has pulled back down into this range. We're currently over 800 days into this. If we look at 2019, you can see this rally off the lows takes you all the way back up to above the 0.618 Fibonacci retracement level. Once we were over 800 days in an equivalent amount, We had already done the C19 capitulation, which I've shown you guys many times with a lot of the altcoins, how they've all topped and we're past C19. But an equivalent place, if we were in 2019 or 2020 compared to now, is if we would already be past C19 and in this price structure, we would have rallied all the way back up to above the 618 retracement level, making this whole thing a consolidation structure. If we go back to 2015, suddenly things start looking a little bit more in line. Here we are at about 800 and something days into it, the equivalent amount to where we are right now. We've broken from this range down here, and now this is our new range that we're playing in, as we have done here in 2022 and 2023. Now playing in this new range. Notice both of these as well, coming just above this 0.236 Fibonacci retracement level, rather than 2019 that went into full-blown retracements. So no matter what, this mirrors this way more than what happened in 2019 and 20. Now, I see constant calls and constant questions for, of course, the new low, but also that we're going to revisit the lows as well for Bitcoin. In the event that we are following 2015, which we're mirroring much closer, do we go revisit the lows again? Nope, gone, right? So all theories for visiting new lows are essentially repeating the 2018 through 2020 playbook. Why can we not use this 2018 through 2020 playbook? One, time is already way past how long it should have been. Two, that retracement doesn't even look remotely close to what happened in 2019 and matches much more to 2015. Also, I have more reasons to show why we won't do 2019 and why 2015 even makes more sense. For those who were here in 2020 through 2021 and 2022, the entire thesis of Bitcoin and picking out the top had to do a lot with super cycles and the price behavior of Bitcoin previously. This was Bitcoin's third super cycle, and the whole 2018 through 2020 playbook was actually wave 4 of Bitcoin's super cycle, in which they both did the same thing. At this phase, you actually do go back and revisit those lows. You go from the peak to the trough, then you go back in for retracements, as we could see over here, back into retracements, then revisit the lows and revisit the lows. Once again, repeating the exact same wave 4. So we were at a very specific place in Bitcoin's super cycle to perform this type of structure. We can zoom in on it even more, and you can see it in here. There's even an A, B, C that happens in here, right? That visit back down to the low, right? Crash, retraces, A, B, C. We'll look over here. Let's go back into that. What do we have? A, B, C. Same thing, same place, repeating structure, repeating formula, but at a very specific place in Bitcoin's super cycle. So to use that right here wouldn't be appropriate. Not only does the price action in no way resemble that, but the location of its occurrence is not similar either. So is there any validity to the idea of 2015? I think you could make a much stronger argument for 2015. Why? Let's go back. Rather than using this, where we've cut it off early, let's go ahead and add in 2015. That way we can include the whole correction that happened afterwards rather than cutting it off early. And what we're going to end up seeing here is we'll start it from the same spot, go on up here. What do you have? Well, it's the correction we keep talking about. This one, the one that we started off with, right? This one is the same correction that we actually ended up doing in here, but is the style of correction that also happened after the super cycle was completed. So you shift it over here, you get a clue of what that would look like, right? What were we doing at this time? We were working in that sideways range, right? Stuck underneath for 9 months, you break out, then you work through a range for a long time to then shift up to another level, coming off of this exact same structure that we had from 2018 through 2020. So this is more of your wave 4 final ending move that happens here before the market goes off to hit its peak, then goes off into the major correction. And where we're at right now, you can line up time as we've done here and as we've shown over here. Line up time, have that peak come in right at the peak of all the on-chain data and all the metrics on larger time frames to show where the peak of the market happened right here, right? Here's your peak of 2017 and 18, right? Here's your peak of 2021. Whoops, where are we falling off the cliff at? We're falling off in April, way back over here, right? That's the peak of the market, and on-chain data says that's the peak of the market. But we get in here, and where are we supposed to be right now? we're supposed to be consolidating above the previous trading range. So you have a trading range here, you have a trading range here, form supports on top of the trading range, and then eventually make your way to a new trading range, right? So even the placement, not only the price behavior of where we're at and how we're acting with these trading ranges, but the placement of it at the end of a super cycle occurring, this is the appropriate consolidation happening. Hold a range, work it for 7 months, and then leave the range, right? This one we've been in it for how long? 5 months. But what doesn't happen in here? We don't go revisit those lows. It's gone, right? It just works a range, moves a new one. Works a range, moves to a new one. So all the people saying we have to go back to the lows or we have to set new lows because of this one, it's not the same, guys. My strong opinion would be these are the same people who thought 100K that didn't follow this at all in 2021 to understand where we were. And they're still refusing to acknowledge that this even ever existed in the first place. As of right now, as much as it makes me cringe to say it, even the 4-year cycle, magic moon math, we're starting a whole new bull run, all those guys, their argument is still valid while we do this. Again, the pain. Ugh. But the playbook we're working right here for that idea does not revisit the lows and most certainly does not set new lows. If you went to go set new lows, you could see even using this peak over here, you're asking yourself to set new lows the furthest into any bear ever in the history of all time. Whether that's using 2015 or using 2018, neither of them are going to get you new lows. But the argument for this one just shouldn't even be used because as we know, that was a very specific consolidation of wave 4 before going into wave 5. But if you're going to reset yourself, how should you reset it? We can go look through the past. What does it look like after full super cycles have been completed? Like we saw happen, full super cycles, what does the correction look like afterwards? And you can see it in here. Consolidate in the new range. So one other thing that's also interesting, if we go back and review that to see how deep did this thing fall, you could see as Bitcoin worked its way back up, right? Crash, retrace, ABC, reaccumulation. Notice as it gets back to its all-time high, it has an area of resistance that has to work right in here. This is the area at which we pulled down to. You can see it pulls right back down to the low of this thing, right in here. That is what has also already happened for Bitcoin in here. Notice that right there. There's your area. There's where you pull back to. You've already done that even in the super cycle behavior in here to get back in there, that you're done. So anyone who believes in 4-year cycles and block reward halvings, like this is not to be cruel. This is just kind of like a wake up. Like, do you really even believe in that? Or do you just listen to Twitter and you listen to influencers who are telling you that? Because you can clearly go through all this stuff. And for most of the viewers on this channel, you watching, you've probably seen this before. You've seen everything about super cycles before. You already understand the Bitcoin bull runs and the historical behavior of how this market has worked. You would know we're not repeating what happened in 2018 through 2020. But there's stuff posted all over Twitter that gets thousands of likes and I get asked about it in live streams. It is so blatantly obvious. This is not 2019. This is not 2020. That if it were, we would have already seen a giant retracement out of Bitcoin. And that your problem would be not thinking that Bitcoin's still working on 4-year cycles, but that Bitcoin is the weakest it's ever been in history. And it is flashing massive, massive warning signs if this is your hypothesis. But fortunately, just like in 2021, where nobody was paying attention to super cycles except for us here on this channel, it's the same story again. Nothing has changed with the market. They're all doing recency bias. Just like in 2021, they were all looking to the 2017 bull run, thinking we're going to $300,000, using recency bias of the last bull run. They're using recency bias of the last correction. And if you're not paying attention to super cycles, you're not paying attention to what's happening with Bitcoin, you're not recognizing it's doing the exact same thing as it was once it started a new super cycle as it did in 2015. Now, the point of this is not to say it's starting a new super cycle, it's roaring to the upside. The point of this was just to completely eliminate this and say this is not what's going on. Because what would happen here is if we do take out these lows, you're going to have a bunch of people screaming this is what's going on with Bitcoin. Or that going to 12K is totally acceptable for us to then turn up and head to the upside. But what would happen if we go down and we visit lows, we've then eliminated this one, especially if we go down here, We eliminate anything that's ever happened, and the only logical conclusion that can be drawn from Bitcoin at that time is dead. The thing nobody wants to hear, destroys all the fantasy, destroys all of the romanticism, but that if you go set a new low right now for Bitcoin, you are making a structure entirely different from anything Bitcoin has ever done in all of its history, all of the magic 4-year cycles, all the block reward halvings. It will have shattered all of that. And unfortunately for most, they're being fed a message that going down to 22K, going down to 23K, it's totally fine. Revisiting the lows is totally fine. No, it's not. So I may be coming off aggressive. I may be coming off blunt. The reality is there's way too many people thinking we can go set new lows or that we're doing the 2019 and 2020 playbook. And it is so blatantly obvious. We are not. Right now, you're totally good with the 2015 playbook, guys. You're totally good with the 2016 playbook, but not 2019 and 2020. And if we start breaking that support right in there, and you're thinking this is like 2019, this is like 2020, everything is fine, long term, you're on your own on that, man. I'm not going to subscribe to that. And you have to realize I've been making YouTube videos for almost 4 years, and we did this whole thing. We were here through all of this. We were here, starting right here is where I started making YouTube videos, November of 2019. We go through C19, we see the crash, retrace, reaccumulation. We recognize the super cycle, where we were in the super cycle. We rode it all the way up, knowing dang well the super cycle was going to end here. Meanwhile, the world is screaming for huge numbers. It's like it's being completely ignored all over again of where you are right now, thinking we're doing that again. It's just not. Right now, you can throw on your moon boots. You can scream, we're going to $1 million. I'll probably sit there and say, I don't know, man, the stock market, blah, blah, blah. And then you point to it and you say, yeah, well, look at 2015. What happened after that? And I'd say, well, you know, it's a fair argument. But 2019, 2020, But the cold hard reality is you could sit there and you could say, BCB, I know that you think the stock market controls everything and that you're worried the stock market's going to be topping out pretty soon. But go look at Bitcoin. Go look at how it has behaved and compare that to the end of a super cycle. Go see where it breaks resistance. Go see how it's holding these supports and running sideways just as it did in 2014, 15, and 16, all starting at the same time. All the exact same stuff. And the only argument I would be able to come back with my stock market stuff is to say, we'll see what happens. Until then, the people who use 2016 and 2015 as their hypothesis and their thesis of the market, they're right until proven wrong. But anybody who's using 2019 through 2020 as their reference is just blatantly wrong. There are no similarities to us crashing from here and going and hitting 12K or crashing from here and hitting the lows and everything being okay. But the people who adopt this thesis of the market, you have the ability to come back and argue and say, you know what? I don't believe your stock market stuff. That's silly because I can look at this and I can see that Bitcoin is behaving just like its super cycles, right on time, holding supports. It's perfect. And I'd have to say, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But you get what I'm saying, right? So I just wanted to point all of this out because, you know, I addressed the 12K stuff on day one because I knew it was going to come back and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's in the chats. So I wanted to go ahead and eliminate the idea that we can go back to the lows. I wanted to eliminate the idea of 12K and show you very, very clearly where we need to be in Bitcoin cycle in order for there to be the block reward halving, the 4-year cycles, all of that good stuff. Where do you need to be at a minimum? And it doesn't mean I'm not going to, you know, go crazy and sell 65% into a retracement. Still my plan, not changing a thing. But this thesis right here can remain intact because it's playing perfect. It's playing right at the time where it should. It's playing after a completed super cycle has already played out. It's playing out after a correction after a super cycle has already played out. All of this stuff is just golden. It's fine. You know, you can't, even the stock market argument can't overcome this at this point. You know, we'll see what happens when the stock market has problems. But anyone with this thesis, you currently win. Like your argument is stronger than stock market until stock market proves otherwise. And that's my point. Like just to show this to you. So we don't have to sit there and debate to understand the history of the Bitcoin price cycles. You know, if we don't have that understanding, and if we're sitting there looking for me, you're coming at me, what do you think of the 12K stuff? Just study the history of Bitcoin, study its super cycle, study its price behavior, and you won't have to sit there waiting for Twitter to tell you. You don't have to sit there and waiting for me to tell you. You just understand it. You know how it all works. And if something's not acting right, you'll know it. You don't need to go to Twitter and have somebody tell you it. And it's really important that you do that and that you understand that. So the good news for the bulls on Bitcoin is you're all good. Like if your hypothesis is 4-year cycles, block reward halvings, dude, then you're in a bull run, man. You shouldn't even be questioning it. But if you're wishy-washy and you're so disconnected from the price history of Bitcoin and how the price behaves for Bitcoin, and you're thinking we're going to visit the lows or we're going down to new lows, no, you're in your range. You need to break up, not start breaking down. So there you go. Little history lesson on Bitcoin, why we can't be doing what happened back in 2018 through 2020, how the argument for the 2015 recovery, those people actually have a very solid foundation to build that. And nobody has that, by the way. It's just me presenting it. But I'm saying if you adopted it, you at least have a very strong argument. So, all right, I'll quit my rambling. Stop asking me about 12K. Stop asking me about new lows or visiting the lows. You see the charts yourself. You're now fully educated on it. We break below that support. That argument gets really, really tough. But so far, anybody who's like a 2015, 2016 bull that like you're starting a new super cycle so far, your argument's strong until proven otherwise. I'd say for anyone who's a Bitcoin bull and who thinks it's starting a new cycle and you're adopting the 2015 and 2016 playbook, your argument is very strong. We just have to see what the stock market is going to do. Otherwise, hard to argue it. But all right, guys, that's going to be it for this one. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I feel like I got crunk in this video. I feel like I just have like the same conversations over and over again a lot. And so you get to see everything yourself. Now you formulate your own opinion. Who cares what I think? You got the data. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this one. If you're looking for something to do, of course, you can check out my website, bcbacker.com. Over 40 videos, over 11 hours of content in here, and a lot of the historical behavior of the crypto market if you want to learn about how the market has behaved before. A lot of info here on research, tokenomics, market cap, crowd behavior. I think we just watched a lot of crowd behavior. I haven't seen any 12Kers today after that pop up there on Bitcoin's price. But of course, yesterday we had a bunch of them. And of course, emotional management and a ton of stuff in here to help you set up your own charts and your own indicators in CoinTrader Pro and in TradingView. You can check that out over here on bcbacker.com. Otherwise, guys, I wish you a wonderful day. I hope you're doing all right. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.